A 22-year-old asked an AI how to boil water yesterday. Not ironically, not as a bit. He needed to know. The AI gave him a 7-step process with safety warnings, and then he thanked it. That happened on this planet recently, but we're fine. Good evening. My name is Winston Eves, and today for my library, we're examining the competency crisis, where an entire generation can map out the complete lore of 5 fictional universes in detail, but cannot read cursive, write in full sentences, or approach a problem without first asking a language model what to think about it. And before you reach for the "okay old man" response, I'm not mourning change. I'm describing something specific. There's a difference between evolution and forgetting how to breathe. One is adaptation, the other is just loss. Here's a comparison people keep getting wrong. Calculators didn't kill mathematics. They automated computation, but students still learned why 2 + 2 is 4. The logic underneath before they were handed the calculator. The current generation isn't doing that. They're not offloading the arithmetic, they're offloading the reasoning, and those are completely different problems. Here's what the data shows. Literacy rates among American adults have been declining since the 1990s. Not traditionally illiteracy, functional illiteracy, the inability to read at a level that daily life actually requires, and it's accelerating. Generation Alpha, children born after 2010, are on track to be the first generation in modern history with lower literacy rates than their parents. Not because they're less intelligent, intelligence hasn't changed. The infrastructure that builds competency has just been quietly taken apart, and nobody replaced it with anything. They don't read books, they watch summaries. They don't write essays, they prompt AI. They don't learn skills, they watch someone else do the skill on YouTube and decide that counts. This isn't adaptation, it's atrophy with better marketing. And here's the best part that makes it genuinely strange. They don't know what they don't know. Previous generations without certain skills were at least aware of this gap. These children have dissolved the distinction entirely. If you can ask AI and get the answer, then you effectively know it. The knowledge is rented. They've decided that's equivalent to owning it. There's a version of this that would be fine. Externalizing memory, fine. You stop memorizing phone numbers. You free up mental space. Life continues. But this isn't that. They're externalizing thought itself. A person without a phone can still think. A person who can't form an argument without AI assistance can only prompt. And prompting is not thinking. It's outsourcing cognition to someone that doesn't actually understand what it's saying. A professor recently had students write a short essay in class. By hand, no devices, on a topic they've been studying for weeks. The simple prompt, what is the purpose of education? One submission read, education is good because it is teaching us things. Many things is important to learn for the jobs. Without education, we not have the knowledge for doing the things we need. This was a college junior, 3 years from the workforce, 16 years in formal education. They cannot construct a grammatically coherent sentence about the institution they have been attending their entire lives. And before you say that's one example, you're right, it is. Some don't write at all. They use voice to text exclusively, which means written language stopped being a system they interact with. It's just sounds that get converted into symbols. When the software makes errors, they don't notice. They were never taught that written language has internal structure to begin with. You can trace this back, and it goes further than you expect. Handwriting was removed from primary education. Children got iPads before they mastered pencils, not because typing is more useful, but because teaching handwriting is harder, and children complained, so it got cut. Handwriting isn't just mark making, it's neurological. Writing by hand engages different pathways than typing. You retain information differently. Children who learn handwriting show better reading comprehension, better spelling, better idea generation. This is documented neuroscience, not speculation. We traded neurological development for a slightly smoother morning routine. Here's where it gets worse. Generation Alpha is the first cohort raised from high birth on algorithmic content delivery. They don't choose what to read. An algorithm decides, based on what held their attention for 8 seconds last Tuesday. The average sustained attention span for a Generation Alpha child is estimated to be around 8 seconds. Studies on reading time, task completion, ability to focus on non-stimulating activity, all trending the same direction, downwards. They cannot read a chapter book, not won't, can't. Their brains have been trained to expect constant novelty. A chapter book offers none of that. It requires patience, delayed gratification, the ability to build a mental model over time. Those are skills. They are not being developed. They watch the movie, read the wiki, get AI to bullet point it, and they feel like they've done the reading, but they haven't built the cognitive endurance to sit with a complex idea long enough to actually understand it. They've consumed the information without processing any of it. And this is the part that matters. They can't tell what's true. They confuse access with understanding. Google anything feels like you know it, but knowing where the answer lives is not the same as understanding it. It's not even the same as being able to evaluate whether it's correct. Media literacy requires reading comprehension, logical reasoning, contextual knowledge. If you can't read at an adult level, you can't evaluate sources. If you can't sustain attention, you can't compare them. They're simultaneously the most informed and misinformed generation in history, both things at the same time. This generation was already on the trajectory before ChatGPT launched. What AI does is make them comfortable with it. It removes the last remaining incentive to develop the underlying competency. The standard defense: humans will handle the creative work. AI handles the rote stuff. Clean division of labor. Except writing isn't rote. Writing is thinking made visible. When you write, you find out what you actually believe. You notice the contradictions. You refine the idea in real time. Outsource that to AI, and you haven't eliminated a rote task. You've eliminated the mechanism by which coherent thought develops. Same with coding. Same with research. Same with anything that requires you to work through a problem step by step. The creative thinking they supposedly freed up for doesn't materialize from nothing. It grows through years of doing foundational work badly, then less badly, then adequately. You learn to think by thinking through bad ideas until you can tell the difference. Skip the foundation, and you haven't freed yourself for higher order thinking. You've just removed the ladder. AI becomes prosthetic for a limb they never grew, and they don't realize it's missing. They assume their parents also couldn't form arguments without help, that previous generations just didn't have the tools yet. They generally don't understand that earlier generations possessed these competencies themselves, that having them was the point. And it doesn't stop there. They enter the workforce and can't perform the jobs. Not because the jobs are hard, because the jobs require baseline competencies that were never developed. Reading comprehension, following multi-step instructions, writing a professional email, making a decision without asking an AI first. Employers across industries, trades, tech, healthcare, service, hospitality are all noticing the same thing. They have degrees, certifications, credentials, asserting competence. What they don't have is competence, because somewhere around 2010, educational institutions stopped verifying that students could actually do anything. Submit the assignment, AI written or not. Pass the test. Collect the credential. The credential is real. The skill it represents became optional. And this connects to something bigger. It's that the people who know things are retiring, and there's no one to pass the knowledge to. Skilled trade are losing expertise as master craftsmen retire with no apprentices behind them. Engineering firms are watching decades of institutional knowledge walk out the door because it lived in people's heads, and those people assumed someone would eventually want to learn it. And there isn't. This is how civilizations collapse, not through sudden catastrophe, through accumulated incompetence. Rome didn't fall because the barbarians were particularly strong. It fell because Romans forgot how to maintain aqueducts, roads, and armies. The knowledge degraded. The systems followed. By the time anyone noticed, nobody remembered how things worked. We're watching that same process, just with better graphics and more comfortable chairs. The official response to all this, from institutions, tech companies, the adults who should be alarmed, is roughly, it's fine. AI will adapt. They're digital natives. They'll figure it out. They won't. Figuring things out requires cognitive tools they were never given. Persistence, the ability to stay with a problem long enough to solve it. They've been conditioned by every system designed to serve them to believe struggle is a design flaw. If something is hard, the thing is broken, not them. So they ask for accommodations. Lower the standard to meet the current capabilities rather than build the capabilities to meet the standard. And institutions comply. Universities drop reading requirements. Employers remove skill assessments. Standards fall quietly, incrementally, and we're told this is equity. This is compassion. This is meeting people where they are. It's abandonment dressed as care. You don't help someone by confirming they're incapable and removing every obstacle that would have forced them to become capable. That's not support. That's just a slower version of giving up on them. So what happens when this generation runs things? When they're maintaining power grids and staffing hospitals and making decisions that require sustained analytical thought? What happens when the AI goes down? And it will, because technology always fails eventually, and there's no one left who knows how to function without it. We're building a civilization of dependent adults. People who can consume but not create, prompt but not think, access information but not evaluate it, identify problems but have no framework for solving them. And we keep calling it progress. It's not. The competency crisis isn't coming. It's the 22-year-old who can't boil water. It's the college junior who can't write a sentence. It's the new hire who needs AI supervision to get through a Tuesday. And the most damning part, they're genuinely fine with it. They don't see this as a problem. In their world, competence means knowing which question to ask the AI. And as long as the AI is running, they're set. The question was never whether they could learn. It's whether they'll realize they need to, before they're the ones responsible for the things that break. But these are just my observations.